This is the Gambling Gauchos.
Welcome into Gambling Gauchos. I am Rob Bro. He is not Kyle Jacobson. It's Keith Patrick from Red Raider Dugout, Dinger Derby, the podcast of the people from Texas Tech Baseball.
Oh, yes.
Recording live from the Cardinals Sports Center studio. You can go find them at mycardinalsports.com. Gear up for Lubbock Matadors games that are still going on. They're back in Lubbock on the 18th. 16th? What's the next Saturday? If it's the 9th.
It's the 18th.
And it'll be Ted Lasso night.
Oh.
You could shave that beard into a pretty sweet stash. I don't know that you want to, but
I don't want to. I will say
you look like Jason Sudeikis.
I'm otherwise committed that night. I'm going to the Did you say I look like Jason Sudeikis?
Anybody ever tell you that?
Well, no. I get Zach Galifianakis a lot.
Okay, that makes sense.
Chubby guy with a beard. I mean, It's kind of easy. I'm otherwise committed that night. I'm going to the 100 Black Men Gala. But in the group I'm going with, there is a guy with a fantastic mustache. So he would rather be at the Lubbock Matadors match.
Cardinal Sports Center in Lubbock and Plano. The summer sidewalk sale, that's like Christmas in July, coming up soon. So pay attention for that. You ever go to the sidewalk sale?
Heck yeah.
Dude.
And every time you don't say Plainview, I'm proud of you.
I try. I try really hard. By the way, the Lubbock Matadors, also a wonderful sponsor of ours. Back in Lubbock, they play the Laredo Heat tonight. So,
aptly named.
Go Matadors. They have to play at 8:30. The Matadors play at 7. They kick off at 8:30 to really make sure the sun is out of the way.
Wow.
Game time temperature at 8:30, like 104 probably there in Laredo.
Just think how easy that road trip will be when I-27 has been completed.
Yeah, all the way.
Like, 45, 50 years?
Oh, man.
Plans.
Those really are some long-term plans. All right. They've been going on for a while.
Yeah.
Glad they finally got that through, though.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Ports of Plains, they've done yeoman's work on that, making that happen. That's been awesome.
All right, Texas Tech baseball, unfortunately, finishing at I wanted to say the Notre Dame regional because it should have been.
Yeah, no doubt.
It was the Statesboro regional. 16th regional for the 16th seed with the 16th umpiring crew. A rough finish for the Texas Tech offense, but a brilliant performance from the pitching. Keith, as a whole on the season, did Texas Tech underperform, overperform, or pretty much do what they were supposed to do in 2022?
I would say slightly overperform. Because, and everybody might remember, when this team walked into the rankings, your preseason rankings all came out, it ran from like 3 to 24. And because I think national media just didn't know who they were. So if you weren't sitting there obsessing like a few of us do, no, you didn't know who these dudes were. And some of them had been role players over the years. Kendall Rogers went on the D1 Baseball podcast after Arlington and kind of ragged on the team, saying like they look bad, and a dude that hit 230 at A&M is their cleanup hitter, Yeah. And at the beginning that made sense, and Ty Coleman ended up having a pretty nice season, But I think that starting off, you just didn't know who they were. They didn't quite know who they were. They found a pretty good stride, and then they hit some struggles. You had some injuries. You had some guys that you needed to step up from a pitching standpoint, and boy, did they in the regional. But yeah, I think when you look at like level of dudes, you go watch Tennessee or even Texas, to be totally honest with you. Like, you had some big wins, sweep in Stillwater. The series win over Texas was huge. This regional performance, going down early and then battling your way to the final series, is pretty good too. To the regional final, I mean. Yeah, I think they slightly overperformed. And that sounds weird because perspective gets skewed.
Right.
And we're like, we're not in Omaha, so they underperformed. Well, every team's different every year. And this team lost like 20 guys last year.
And 10 the year before. Now, they generally have been losing 10 every year since they got into like the 2016 year,
Yeah.
where you start having 10 in the draft every year. But 10 in the draft, 10 in the portal, a huge jump. And that's after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the 2021 season that really felt like a letdown when you're in the super, hosting a super and a national seed, lose to Stanford in 2 games. Then you kind of have
Like, let's
back
just be honest. You got
rocked.
rocked.
Yeah. But this year, if you went back and looked at the beginning of the season, I mean, it's like, all right, Birdsell we think is going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. He turned, and don't forget, he turned down the draft to come back.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
in a legit
he
spot.
made the right decision.
What's that?
He made the right decision too.
I
Because
agree. He'll be a top 100 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did not know what to expect from Andrew Morris.
No, you hoped he was your new Patrick Monteverdi, but you didn't know.
Mason Molina, I thought Chase Hampton would play a huge role after how he finished last year.
Yeah.
He didn't until the very end.
And rocked.
But you just look at this lineup and you say, well, why didn't Kurt Wilson start the first 4 years he was here for a whole season?
Kurt
Right.
Wilson started at shortstop to begin the season last year.
And then was
First
not
game in
good
Arlington.
and got immediately replaced.
He did. And that was a sickness thing, I think, too. But
Maybe so. And then you had Easton Morrell. Why had Easton Morrell not started every day and been an everyday player for 4 years?
because you had Drew Baker in the corner outfield.
Exactly. So as good as those 2 guys were and probably your 2 best hitters this year, I think that speaks to how this team wasn't as talented as the years past because those guys did finally wait around and get their shot. And
Yeah.
look, that's not saying anything negative toward those 2 guys. They had a really good year, and I'm really glad they stayed around because this team would have been much worse without them. But it also is just like, okay, this team was kind of a gap year to where you're trying to get back to how talented you were for a few years.
Well, and the last time I'm not going to disagree. I first of all, I think that Kurt Wilson's a guy, and Tim Tadlock's pretty open about this. Kurt Wilson wanted to pitch, and so Kurt Wilson was deciding to be a bullpen pitcher until he said, "Hey, you know what? I want to go to the field. That's where I'm going to get to do something."
Right.
And we saw what happened. And also Kurt Wilson's the kind of guy like, where do you put him? He can play pretty much everything, and he has. And so it's one of those deals. You weren't going to replace Cal Conley for him. You weren't going to replace Josh Young for him, although he could do those things. He's not better than Parker Kelly at third. So he kind of needed a spot to open because he's really good. He's very athletic. He's multifaceted, but he's not a draft prospect, probably. And so, yeah, he's kind of had to wait around. He waited his turn. He's had some of the biggest moments in the last 10 years in Tech baseball, which is cool. He's a guy you will never forget.
He'll be a legend.
Oh, yes.
Already is.
And he's got a great personality, so he can live that legend. I'm not saying like he's not going to do anything in his life, but I mean like he can enjoy that.
Yeah.
And then Easton Morrell, like I like Easton Morrell. He plays mad. Like he just plays intense. He's focused. He's fired up. And you've seen some big things out of him. You saw a big home run in 19 against his former team, but a guy that kind of battling through. Dudes in front of him. I mean, Drew Baker just immediately moved up to high A in pro ball because he was hitting like 360. They needed to face some more difficult competition.
Yeah.
So, but all that to say, comparatively, the last time you had a gap year was 2015, and you didn't make the postseason. And so, and we were just talking about this. I was talking about this at lunch with somebody yesterday. You didn't know who Texas Tech was after 14, and then you don't make the postseason. What's going on? Like, was that a thing? Or did 14 just kind of flat? Was it the Mavericks winning a championship? Like, yeah. And then you go to Tallahassee and split a series with Florida State in 16, and it's like, oh, maybe there's some dudes here, And now your gap year is, well, we're not hosting our own regional, like that's your gap. And so I think that the floor continues to rise for the team. But yeah, I mean, and this is no knock on these guys because I love them and I think that they did a great job this year. But
100%.
no, they are not just. I mean, there are those, but they are not just a team of elite athletes. I think that they're a team of scrappy dudes that played really hard, and we're a good team together, but not an elite team.
Yeah, and it's hard to reconcile that sometimes, especially as a fan,
Yeah,
because elite is sometimes good in conversations. Well, there are elite teams, and there's a bunch of good teams. You were a Final 32 team because you were in the regional championship series.
yep,
So you were one of the 32 best teams in college baseball this year out of 300.
yeah.
That's a pretty good percentage wise. And a couple plays go differently. You're forcing another game with Notre Dame, and who knows what happens without their ace.
A couple plays go differently, or an umpire makes a different decision, and you're the Big 12 champion.
Okay, so this is the gap here. Right? Now, go back to that TCU series, because I never got a baseball expert opinion here. What the hell happened with that balk call on Friday night? Because if it's not reviewable, how did they overturn it on the field?
I saw you keep asking that.
I
I got to remember back to the conversations because Snead was fired up about that one. Them changing their decision on the field is not a review. Not reviewable is supposed to be the video review.
guess, but it just that seems like semantics to me.
I'm with you. I think he balked. Like I don't think to me there wasn't a question. And if it wasn't a balk, I don't know how you break it down enough to change it. Especially without looking at it.
In that moment, and you're not allowed to look at it.
But they did what they're supposed to do. His view was blocked. He goes to his second base guy. He makes the call. Like, I love Tadlock standing up for him. I thought it was ridiculous. It's not a guaranteed win, but it definitely changes the situation.
Yeah,
but you had a bunch of those this year. Do what?
You lost the next two, anyways.
Yeah, no, I don't
which hurt.
And that's the thing. If you had won one game in that series,
yeah,
that's what hurt. Or one game, or the final series. But all that to say, you've only lost in a regional one other time. It was 2017, and I know you said it. Probably your most talented team. There's two things that happen. You lose your stud starting second baseman at the end of going into the postseason. Doesn't get to play. Michael Davis didn't play. So that's not great. And then you lose to a 60-mile-an-hour junk baller that throws 280 pitches that weekend.
Who was like 5'8".
Yes, with the nastiest like
Gross.
golden beard, whatever that was. It's like tentacles on his face. So, but hey, they won, like tip of the cap. But you won a Big 12 championship that year. So like 17's hard to call a failure. You didn't get out of the regional. You were in a regional hosting and you won the Big 12 championship. You didn't get that cushion this year and you had your shot. And what I said to some friends the other day, what hurts me, like what feels bad about all this is April Texas Tech would have won that regional or would have won the series against OU. And May Texas Tech didn't, in June. It's like you felt like you were there and then you weren't.
Ran out of steam a little bit.
It seemed like it. Like maybe you peaked a little early, and you lose Parrish. And you never get Girton back. And, just thing after thing.
Let me ask you this. Did Texas Tech also peak maybe, I don't want to say mentally, but I'm going to say mentally, after the Texas series when they got put at 4 universally and they're a top 5 team? Do you think maybe they ate the cheese a little bit? Using a Bill Parcells phrase, and kind of maybe got ahead of themselves and thought, because then you start losing midweeks. You drop the series at Grand Canyon. The TCU series happens. There's just like a bunch of stuff right after that. And you're like, well, I mean, are they good?
Yeah.
And then they were top 10 through it all.
They were. And
Kendall.
So yeah, you go after that series, and of course you get run ruled by Texas on Sunday. So
right,
you have a bad. And I walked out of my house that morning and told my wife. She's like, "Is it going to be another crazy one?" And I said, "No, somebody's getting blown out today. You just don't have 2 games like that and then do it again." You curb stomp Stephen F. Austin for 2 games. And then really you curb stomp Kansas for 2 games and then give up Sunday. And that's where really you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then Grand Canyon. Now, one thing I will point out, and it's probably a little bit overlooked, second game of Grand Canyon, you lose Easton Morrell. And you lost him for a few games. And he was in and out more than I think we remember.
Right.
And that was big, and you were also trying to figure out center field. But yeah, going on a 5-game skid is not what you're used to. And getting swept in a Big 12 series is not what you're used to. And losing to New Mexico, like there was a lot of ugly, kind of in that little stretch, April 12th through April 19th, and get a little ride against West Virginia, lose to Abilene Christian at home, and then from then on, other than the Oklahoma loss, like it was good. And then you have a high again. You sweep Oklahoma State there. You love it. Shove it right down the Holiday's throat. They act like they invented baseball.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, I mean, like in the moment, it felt awful or great, or awful and then good. And you're like, oh, but when's the other shoe going to drop,
Right.
And you go look back on it, you're like, this season's not so bad. They had a little 5-game skid, but it's baseball. Like, it doesn't tell the story of how it felt in the moment. I'm not looking for excuses. I'm not looking for excuses or to give you that's the way baseball go, but I think that's part of the beauty of baseball. You can't always put your finger on what the hell happened, or who was missing. And speaking of missing, I don't think we can ignore that Ray Hayward wasn't there after the DBU series or the first DBU game.
2 questions here. We'll start with Ray Hayward because you just brought him up.
Sure.
Somebody asked me, and I just am not inside the program enough to give a qualified answer here, but I'm trying to remember who they compared Ray Hayward with in the building.
I can tell you who I compare him with.
Go ahead.
Larry Hayes.
Well,
no, I'm serious.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a relationship dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the coach that you leave high school and you always stay in touch with or want to be in touch with. You good?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, here it is. This is the question that was pushed to me earlier in the year. They said, is Ray Hayward the Adams equivalent in baseball? Something seems amiss. So, like Adams, the 5-year shadow head coach, right, yeah, for Chris Beard.
I think Ray Hayward is
the heart of the team kind of thing.
I think he's Tommy McVeigh.
That's
with world-class baseball knowledge and experience. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I think he brings a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of understanding, like a ton of contacts, and just life perspective to those dudes. And he's steady. Tim Tadlock always describes him as steady. And I think that if there's anything that was missing, it's not the coaching side, like what's the right word? I hate when people say X's and O's for baseball because that doesn't make any sense. But
right.
It's the steadying, the we're going to ride through it together. When guys like Cole Stillwell and Jace Young talk about going up to bat and looking up at a former pitching coach in the stands, and like they have all those experiences with him in relationship to. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm not going to tell you who, but there's a guy that asked me, current player, senior, he said, asking how he was and like how long until he gets a heart, how does that work, and was choking up, just asking, which I don't know. I mean, other than watching Grey's Anatomy, like I don't know how that works. This was before he got his transplant.
Right.
That's how much they care. And so I don't think you can ignore that missing piece in the program and in the role he plays. And the experience and all that. And also the other side of just dealing with not knowing what's going to happen to him. And then on top of that Cody Masters almost died, and that kind of went, I mean, people acknowledge it, but it kind of went under the radar. Like that dude was in the hospital very sick.
I don't know that people know exactly what he went through.
So Cody had, and I think it's been reported, he had meningitis.
Right.
And so, and it was bad. I mean, he was in the hospital for multiple weeks, lost a ton of weight. And Tim Tadlock said that after he did get to come in and pinch hit in a game. I forgot when it was. He said, if you told me, he's like, you told me 6 weeks ago he was going to be doing this. I said, no way, and Cody told him that he'd be back this year. And he was. So I think that that said a lot about him. And I hope he doesn't have a bunch of lingering, issues. I don't know much about that, but I know he hung around and he gutted through and he got healthy and all that. And there's just a whole other level of just mental stress that comes with all that stuff. It wasn't a year where you're just all dialed in and rolling together. You've got all these other things and they're serious.
Does it almost feel like this year, last year, and 2020 were all one long year?
Yeah. A
It
little
also
bit.
is like the Jace Young era.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of just trying to, I don't know. Because obviously there was a break and you had a new season, lots of new players on this team.
Yeah.
But it also just felt like, for some players, for Birdsell, for Young, kind of the culmination of last year. So, I don't know. It just seems like maybe you'll get a fresh start next year.
As long as we waited for baseball to come back after 20,
Yeah.
I do kind of still agree with you. We're waiting almost an entire year to get baseball. But then you come in and you're like, it feels like a continuation of the previous season minus, X, Y, and Z guy.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay. Well,
it's like a monkey you're still kind of dealing with,
Like, not having guys come back. Let's go through the draft real quick.
Okay.
Young's getting drafted, yeah.
Yeah, top 10. I don't see any reason why not. And I just want to be honest too.
For sure.
Do what?
Top 15 for sure. I've seen him to the Tigers a lot at like 12.
MLB has him at 8 to who? They have him at 8.
I see the Tigers, the Rockies. The Rockies at 8, maybe?
Well, they don't project that.
Colorado.
On the MLB prospect rankings, they don't project that. I'm not looking at a draft projection.
Oh, they just have him at 8.
Yeah, just have him at number 8. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But, he scores out well. He's got a great swing when he's healthy. He's a lefty-righty, which is cool. And something a little different. But at the end of the day, the dude has more raw power than his brother. When he's healthy, he can run fine. Not great, but fine, but kind of like Josh. And Josh said that before Jace came when he was still in high school. Like, hey, my brother can hit it further than me. Like, the kid can rate. But I think anybody that's watched has noticed Jace has run heavy this year. He's kind of been dragging a leg around. I don't know any particulars about it. But whatever it is, he deserves the credit for the fact that he gutted through it and kept the season rolling, But I think it affected him at the plate a little bit.
Yeah, it did not look healthy the last month.
No.
Just running bases.
Well, and just think about, home run here and there. When's the last time we saw him spraying to all fields?
Yeah.
And so I think when he got on his horse and had to go, I think that there was probably at the very least some discomfort or pain associated with that. But I think he just has a little, I don't want to say like mobility issue, because I think he's still draftable and he's going to be healthy, but you can't get healthy in the middle of the season without stopping playing. So I think that's what it was.
All right, beyond that, Birdsell.
Yeah. MLB's got him as a top 100 guy. He's at 98. I think he might go a little up from that, but I think, he turned him down last year. He went in the 11th last year to Minnesota, and I think he'll do. I'd be surprised to see him anywhere near that this year with what he did.
Mechanics of the draft, they're 20 rounds now?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think I heard somebody say something like, it's 20 rounds this year. Like, no, it's 20 rounds now. This is it. This is where we are.
40.
Yes.
And then it was 5 for a year.
Did they do 5? Did they do 5 or 10? I think they did 10.
Maybe it's 10 and then they went back to 20. It's kind of a compromise.
Yes. And I think 20 is okay. And a lot of that is starting to treat college baseball as another, minor league type opportunity. And
it's also cutting minor league teams.
Do what?
They also cut minor league teams.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that they've also, and we saw this pre-COVID, started getting to the point where about half of the players drafted were coming out of college, and they started to realize, I think there's some value there, which has been a struggle over the years. So,
yeah. All right, who else? Morris draft eligible?
Yes, I believe he's draft eligible. Yes, I don't know.
cool if he came back for another year.
That would be great. He's not in the MLB top 200. He is eligible to my knowledge. I'll double check that.
Well, he's a junior, so
Yeah. I was just checking his. Well, I don't know where COVID falls in that.
True.
Not that it matters, but
yeah,
he did 2 years at Colorado Mesa, just straight up. So he's eligible. I think he had a good year. I mean, I think there's plenty of positive there. They may like to see another year on him, but he's got to think about. I heard somebody. Well, I'll just call him out. Spencer and Michael were talking on 23 personnel, and they were like maybe Birdsell, but I hope he comes back. I'm like, that dude's not coming back. There's no reason. And these guys have to think about leverage, and if you have the chance to go back, you have the leverage. If you go become a senior, it's over. They have all the leverage. They can just say, well, if you want to come, we'll give you $20K, and that's it. So which is all an undrafted free agent can get anymore.
So do you want to put odds on Morris? Is that like 55, 45? Yeah, this is the Gambling Gauchos. Because I would lean toward him leaving, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised if he returned. Seemingly had a good time here in the town.
Oh, yeah?
City, whatever it is.
Do you have some info there? Is that what you're...
Oh, I just meant he seemed like he enjoyed himself.
Yeah, I go 60-40.
Ooh, 60-40 leaving? Okay.
Yeah, 60-40 leaving. And I don't think I don't have any feel on any guys for transfer portal kind of stuff. I see no reason for him to try to do anything like that. I would not expect there to be any benefit in him just going undrafted and signing, unless he got some reasonable money.
Gotcha.
But if he got drafted, I think it's real possible. It just depends on money has to be a part of it. Just
right. So focused on Texas Tech moving forward here. Catcher returning, Hudson White.
Yep.
Freshman of the year. First base, Stillwell.
I don't know where Stillwell fits exactly. I don't think he's drafted. Cool thing about Stillwell coming back in, he'll probably be at or near the top of the country in at bats. In college at bats. He will have seen a lot of pitches. I think he's better at first than at catch, and I think that he did a really good job becoming a good first baseman this year.
Yes.
So I don't know. I would think that there's more likelihood that he's a full-time first baseman and Huddy is swapping out with somebody else than doing it this way. Because White wasn't as good at first base as he was behind the plate, and hadn't had the time to work into it yet either. But yeah.
All right, Kurt Wilson out of eligibility at shortstop. Pro career pursuit, or
I think he'll try. He'd be dumb not to. He's a great athlete,
right?
And you go out and you get in the right situation, and there's some opportunity, And hell, maybe somebody wants him to pitch again. He came in throwing 96 when he came to Tech, so. Who knows, but I think that he has opportunity if he wants to go pursue, is he a next year big leaguer? No, but he has his chances just like a lot of them do.
Parker Kelly also out of eligibility.
Yeah.
As a draft plus defense.
I don't think so. You can draft a center fielder that can run like the wind and doesn't have great offense. I don't know that you can do that with your third baseman. Now you know what, he can get going. Right. I think he again, like Kurt, if you can get in the minors and get rolling, you have your chance, and you get around some dedicated hitting coaches and some of that stuff. I love Parker Kelly. I think he's a great dude. Both of those guys, because they've been roommates forever and they're like two peas in a pod, I think that he is incredible defensively. Just plus. He's a really good athlete too. I'd put him a tick below Kurt, but still a really good athlete. Faster than you think, but no, I don't think he's a draft guy. Do what?
Sneaky fast. Gritty.
I think he's sneaky fast.
Yeah.
He's not Cody Masters.
No. All right, Easton Morel, also same story. Borderline professional prospect.
Good defensively, has pop. I mean, I think that there's that he's in a Kurt Wilson type
Yeah.
scenario too. I think that they're comparable. You know,
I'm going to skip Dylan Carter
well, he's
because
only a sophomore.
I want to talk more about him.
Okay,
And then Owen Washburn, obviously, started every day,
yep.
workman-like approach at the plate. I thought he got pretty damn good for a couple of weeks there in Big 12 play, and then maybe didn't finish as strong as he wanted to.
At the plate.
Yeah.
I think that if I were him, I would be pissed that I didn't get any Big 12. I mean, I didn't get any
And
awards.
it's all freshman team.
He got all freshman team, but I'd be
Yeah.
pissed I didn't get any looks because I thought he was pretty stinking good for a freshman. I'll be curious to see in the fall if they work him in anywhere else. If they want him as a corner outfielder or right fielder, or if they want him potentially moving into the infield. I'd be curious to see that.
Okay. What would that look like? Second base, third base?
I don't know. I'm pulling up my spreadsheet right now to try. I'm sure he played shortstop in high school. They all did.
Yeah. Sometimes recruits shortstops. Yeah.
I could. I don't know. I mean, I would think left side. I mean, if there's a third base opportunity for him, I have no idea.
Right.
I'm not a coach.
And we'll talk about that when we get to recruiting too. All right. So Dylan Carter.
Oh, I know what I wanted to mention real quick. We
Okay.
talked about Hudson White.
Yeah.
Don't forget that you got a guy, and he was a fall transfer, so he didn't get to play. His name's Kevin Bazell. He was a DBU commit that then came to Tech. Rockwall Heath guy, so still well connected. He's a catcher, 6'1", 205, and he was a 9.5 perfect game grade coming out of high school. Did not get to play in the spring, but we saw him in scrimmages, and that dude can flat out play. And so that I'm excited about to see where he fits, how much he and Huddy can. I mean, you may really see a true swap back and forth DH catcher kind of thing, and they're just alternating. And you got
Right.
fresh legs all year.
Oh, DH2, Ty Coleman. He can return, right?
Ty Coleman can return. Yep. Ty Coleman has history as a position player and had a shoulder injury, and I wonder where he's going to be with that. If there's going to be an intent to rehab and try to get a position, I think he has history with third base. So I'm just wondering if that's something that he spends his summer working towards.
So Hudson White in the lineup next year. Owen Washburn in the lineup next year. Stillwell, you're pretty locked in that he's back, 85% back?
I think he's back, and I think it's unusual for a starter to just go ride the pine the next year. But you got a lot of dudes to compete with, and so I'm not the only one. I have a feeling that your class is up. I mean, you've got a lot of highly ranked guys coming in that I'm excited about, and it's a position heavy class to some extent. At least the JUCO is.
You can look at the class and obviously see that Tim Tadlock felt they needed a boost.
Yeah.
Because you don't recruit this class if you don't think a bunch of them are about to play.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you need a bunch of lake-ready guys, as he likes to say.
Which brings us to Dylan Carter. And look, Dylan Carter, above average fielder.
100, yeah, absolutely.
Saved a lot of runs in the field.
Played injured a lot of the year.
I think if you asked Dylan Carter if he had a good year at the plate, he would be honest with you and say no.
Sure. No, I think that 100. I think he expects more of himself because his freshman year he did.
Yes. Is he a guy that sticks around and finds it like Parker Kelly did? Because Parker Kelly looked lost at the plate for most of his career, was incredible for like a month and a half in 2020, and then kind of found himself this year for a large chunk. Can Dylan Carter do that? Or is he a guy that's maybe playing somewhere else next year?
I don't know, because you're basically saying Dylan Carter is Max Marshak.
Yes.
And I think that we
Basically.
never saw Max Marshak hit anything or a
Yeah.
breaking ball. And he was a starting center fielder for Louisiana this year, and he had a good season, a reasonably good season.
Yes.
260, 270, started a lot of the year. We saw Dylan Carter rake as a freshman in 20. Remember, Dylan Carter was a freshman in 20. He was having a great season. I think he had back-to-back home runs at one point in a game.
Yeah.
And then Dylan Carter got his shoulder hurt, and he didn't enter the 21 season until April. And we haven't seen him the same since. So I question the shoulder health. I know he tweaked it at some point this season because he was in and out some, and I don't think that was defensive, or I don't think that was just offensive. And we saw him wearing the thing, like you can see it hanging out of his sleeve. He has this brace on, and I think that some of the pain that we saw, like laying out for a catch in the regional, was part of that. I think there's some of that that's coming with it. So that's my big question: is he healthy? He's not. He was going to go to the Cape this summer. I don't believe he is now. That's the Cape Cod League.
Right.
So I don't know, Rob. I mean, he's got to make the best decision for him. I think, just to be totally honest, that dude's red ass, and Texas Tech is a great place for him. I mean, he just fits,
Yeah. When it could be that he could play a corner outfield spot or somewhere else.
Could be, yeah.
But defensively,
I mean, you got a couple of guys in the recruiting class that are pretty elite, and especially in those outfield spots. So, and to be totally honest, and we said this, some of us coming into the season, looking in the fall, like you just can't afford to have a hole in your lineup, and he kind of did. And I mean, he doesn't want to hit 200 or 175, like obviously not.
Right. He wasn't trying to.
No, but he struggled, and he didn't really break out of it a whole lot. And so, yeah, I think he has to look at what's best for him. And I think those coaches have those relationships to have those honest conversations too. But it may be a thing where, because I mean, Levi Wells did it this year. Max Marshak did it. Rombach. I mean, you kind of look through the list, and some guys have had success at the places they've gone. That doesn't mean that they couldn't have had success here, but you got to look at who's in front of you and see if you're ever going to get to play.
Right. Tanner Otremba is having a great year at Arizona.
Had a great year. He did. He had a good year. He had a pretty good year last year too. And I think that I'm just sitting here thinking about the comp. Like, what's the comp for a Parker Kelly, Kurt Wilson? Easton Morrell transferred in, but still, like it's kind of BJ Sonny.
Yeah, Sonny Cumbie. Yeah, that's what
it's kind of BJ Sonny and Cody Hodges. Like, you don't see that. You're never going to see that again. Those three guys hang and do that, and you may not ever see this again in this era. Because of COVID and super seniors and all that stuff, and some dudes that just wanted to be where they are and got their shot. And Kurt Wilson built two more giant moments onto a resume full of big moments,
I'm certainly not trying to run Dylan Carter out of town.
No, I know.
I went and looked at, that's through 18 games, 16 starts, he hit 280 as a freshman, true freshman.
I think he was playing left field then.
Yeah.
Because Noisy was in center.
Yes. And then 21 last year, started 31 games, hit 207.
He came in, and that's when he came in April.
He hit right at 200.
Yeah, last year he came in April.
Right.
So kind of one of those hasn't been the same kind of situations. So, yeah.
I'll tell you what is the same. Regenio Barbecue. If you want to go get some top 50 barbecue, you can. They're in Alton, Texas. They're also running a truck all over West Texas. Look up where they are. Regenio Barbecue, RegenioBBQ.com. You can order online, order the day of before 9 a.m., and go and pick it up. You go straight to the pickup window and grab your order. They have the menu there on the website. It's all delicious. The brisket, top of the line, the jalapeno cheddar sausage. You can also get whole pork butts. You can never go wrong with a whole pork butt. That's Top 50 Barbecue at Regenio Barbecue, RegenioBBQ.com. All right, looking at the recruiting class, do you have maybe 5 guys that you want to spotlight or just 2 or 3 maybe that you can go through that maybe that might be instant impact guys, and then we'll get to maybe some pitching staff?
Yes. So first, I'm going to go with Gage Harrelson. So I think I did some tweeting about this guy when he signed. He's a 10 grade on Perfect Game. We got 2 of those in this class right now. He's out of Kathleen, Georgia. And this is a dude that I know the coaches are really high on. Great cultural fit for Texas Tech. Like his family will love it. Great people. J-Bob went out there and played cornhole with him and his uncles, for an evening in the backyard. Yeah, just that kind of thing. Incredible player. Got to get him on campus, and so really hope that Gage Harrelson comes. Outfielder, left-handed pitcher, has played, I think, some first base, lefty, 6'3", 175, like just a dude. I think he could be really special. Could absolutely be extremely special. So got to get him here. That's a big one. There's another one named Jarrett Curtis that I'll mention. He's a 9 grade at a Tomball Memorial in Cyprus. 6 foot 165 guy, center fielder, kind of straight up. I retweeted him the other day because he gunned a dude down from the outfield to win the state championship at the plate. I mean, the putout was, it wasn't like MLB, he's a high school kid, but it was pretty clutch, so that's another one. As much as you're talking about Dylan Carter, I wonder, is Gage Harrelson or Jarrett Curtis a guy you're going to see out there more, depending on bats?
And you said got to get him to campus. So obviously they might be
those guys.
That is something that happens, and that's the risk of recruiting elite talent. If you recruit a bunch of first-round players, okay, cool, you can recruit well, but they're not coming.
So Brandon Birdsell's number 98 on the MLB top 200 prospects. Jarrett Curtis is 133. So,
okay. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there's a line to walk with this stuff. And as much as I want to be pretend I'm a big J Journo and cover this team, I want to walk that line too, because the more you put out about these dudes, the more MLB teams start to pick up on them. I think this coaching staff realized a long time ago, I'm not going to go to X place and watch a bunch of, a 16U tournament and tell any of these scouts who I'm after, because they're going to go after them. You're in straight competition with professional baseball.
All right, so we talked to Cody Campbell. You can follow us on Patreon to get that interview. Talked to Cody Campbell about the Matador Club, and the baseball team is in this. So every baseball player is going to get a check cut from the Matador Club.
For doing their community service hour?
Yes, thing? For their community service, yes.
Okay.
And I do not know the dollar figure for the baseball team. But what we do know is the draft slot, right? So what round do you have to compete with to be kind of 50-50 on NIL just from the Matador Club check?
Are you asking me? I don't know what the check is.
No, I'm not asking really. I just I'm rhetorical because neither of us know.
Yeah, I don't know.
50? I mean, could you get to the 15th round and say, hey, we can compete with that number? Yeah. But if the guy goes in the 8th, I just don't think you have that cash.
Remember Patrick Mahomes? Patrick Mahomes at a high school was a draft prospect.
Right.
And really the decision maker for him to come to Texas Tech was if he was going to break the $1 million threshold in the draft. And I think he was in the high 8s, and chose to come to Tech. Worked out okay,
Yes.
Every guy is going to be different, and I think other things still matter. Hey, I can go develop physically in an elite D1 program, and I'm going to be 3 years closer to the pros than I would be otherwise, making $8,000 a year traveling. And plus now also get paid. So I think it's like gravy on top of the other positives of high school. And there's some that are just going to be straight dollars. I also would argue that I don't think these dudes are going after a lot that are only straight dollar guys, unless they're in the portal. So that's a question too. You want to talk about the portal? You like that segue?
Yeah, I'm going to go do a luau for a second.
Yeah, Mount Laguna. I wonder.
Let's talk about. Let's do that first because we're still on the hitting aspect.
And
So
we can talk about more recruits too, if you want to at some point.
we have this recruiting class coming in: Maui Ahuna, Tommy Tanks, NC State, Kansas. Not respectively, obviously. I just switched those around. Kansas, NC State, respectively.
And to compare, Tommy Tanks just set the freshman home run record for the NCAA.
Yeah.
And his
like
team did not make the postseason, and it was a snub.
like Ivan Melendez type power.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And Tommy Tanks, TT.
Yeah.
Match made in heaven.
Are you in on either of those guys? Do you know? Obviously you're in on them as far as like you would offer. Right, they're good. Like
they're legit.
You have a space for them.
Maui Ahuna was legit when we played them.
Yeah. Do you is this a coaching staff that's going to go after big time recruits?
Yes.
Or not recruits, but transfers?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I think that
we've seen the arms.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've not seen him go after a starter like a ready starter, just hit 375 transfer type.
Yeah, like the huge name. Like these guys are huge name. But I mean, how many of those have you seen transfer in the past?
True. It's kind of a new era.
Yeah. I mean, when have you seen a Golden Spikes candidate kind of guy jump in the transfer portal just because? They're not. I'm sure they're demanding 200,000 plus from NIL money, and I don't know how that world works. And it kind of freaks me out, to be honest, because I don't want to get slapped in 3 years with some sort of sanction. But
banners fly forever.
Tell Reggie Bush that.
Hey.
No, my point is, I do feel confident in saying, and I'm focusing on J-Bob because he's a recruiting coordinator. He's a dude that swings at the top, and wants to build a relationship that gets you to make that decision. Now, you're not going to go get a couple of years ago, what's his name that went 2 overall? Texas high school kid. Dad was a big leaguer.
Witt.
Yeah. Bobby Witt. We're going to get Bobby Witt to come to campus. He's going to go get drafted and make $6-7 million bucks.
Right.
He's already in pro ball. But I think J-Bob can build those types of relationships and swing for that kind of guy. I also do think, and this and what I wrote this week, I meant it about this program. Relationships matter to them. Families matter. Kids matter. I think that they will take a me guy if it's going to help that team win occasionally. But generally, they know the value of team. And so I think that they're looking at cultural fits in the program. They're looking at, dudes that are going to gel with the coaches and with each other. And I mean, look at the years that they've kind of been cliquish or haven't quite meshed as a team. You can see it from the stands. You can kind of feel it around the program, and it's not the best years, And so I think that, yes, like I would be shocked if they haven't had serious conversations with both those guys, maybe for a while, like, I don't know how that works either, but everybody does it, I'm sure,
Hey, I'll tell you what.
Or what? You're playing Kansas and Jason's about to go slap a double, be like, hey, go tell that guy that I'd like to take him to lunch.
Oh, in the handshake line, you're hugging Maui Ahuna a little bit longer, saying, "Hey, man, kind of cold in Lawrence, isn't it?" So we're not tampering, obviously. But.
Nobody's breaking rules. I'm just saying they've at least been in the conversation. I cannot imagine that they would ignore those kind of dudes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it seems like potentially losing 5 starters out of the lineup, 4 probably return. Stillwell and Coleman may or may not be everyday starters next year. Who knows? It's just kind of the nature of the game. I would assume Stillwell is if he's here.
I think so. At least to start the season. Somebody's gonna have to play hard to knock Stillwell out.
Yeah. Pitching, it seems like, at least looking down the roster, you might be returning, obviously not everyone because Birdsell and Morris are gone. Clark, I think, is another reliever who is just kind of a hired gun this year and didn't pitch much.
Colin Clark, yeah, and he's done.
But as far as the roster go, there's not many more guys that contributed this year that are out, yeah?
Right, yeah. Colin Clark I think that, and I've said this before, I think that they had some dudes coming in they wanted to be lake ready, and they weren't. or something happened.
Yeah.
I want to give props to Garrett Crowley for coming back on and pitching late this season. He was a transfer from Fordham, and to be totally honest, I think Garrett Crowley got the yips early in the season, and he battled his way through that and came back and contributed late, and I think that says a lot. I think Brendan Lysick was another one they expected, and he got hurt, and so there you are. Molina was another one, and then I think that Colin Clark was a hope, and you didn't get to see him a whole lot. I'm forgetting where Clark came from. He's an Ohio guy.
Yeah, he was another
Youngstown,
transfer.
Youngstown State.
Yeah, Youngstown State.
Or Youngstown College, whatever. But, yeah, he didn't see a lot of him. There's another guy named Brandon Pettix that is in the transfer portal, at least as reported by D1 Baseball. And a guy and Pettix was, I think, at least on the roster. Really big body guy, never really kind of got going. And then there's another guy that didn't come out of the fall that's in a couple guys that are in the transfer portal that never were on the roster. But, yeah, no, not losing a ton of arms. And I think you got some projectable dudes, like I think Beckel and Kyle Robinson, and I think Hampton figures in big for you, Molina. And you've actually – I wonder if you got a pipeline, because you got another guy coming from Trabuco Hills High School in Rancho Santa Margarita, California.
That's fun to say.
He's a JUCO, yeah, Francisco. This guy's a JUCO transfer, but not a pitcher. He's an infielder. But I just noticed the connection.
What about Austin Becker, who I believe would be eligible to leave through the draft? And he's the kind of guy who has the stuff that you take a dart with in the 18th round. Do you think he you'd love to have all of them back to compete for, bullpen spaces.
Yeah, but you got 26 dudes in a recruiting class right now and a whole bunch more on the team. Actually, with JUCO transfers, you've got 32 guys in a recruiting class and 35 roster spots. So you're gonna have there's gonna have to be some trimming in multiple places. So, and we always see it. We'll end up with a list of 10 or more that don't come or don't make it through the fall. And you got some transfers that'll go. It's just the nature of the deal. Becker, I love him. He's one of the most intimidating people on the team, in my opinion. He is massive. He's 6'5", 215. He has an extremely deep, rumbling voice. He's calm, and he'll just tell you flat out his goals. Like he wants to pitch in pro baseball. I mean, he wants to be at the MLB level. I do think we need to remember that he was coming off a TJ this year. But in fairness, strikes have been a problem over the career a little bit. And I think he had some good ones this year. He had some good outings, and he had some a little bit rougher. I think he looked better. But he needs a year to develop. In my opinion, I think that a year would do him good. He's a redshirt sophomore. There's still plenty of time for him. I'd love to have him back. I think that he brings a lot of projectability and physically. But you're right. It's a kind of guy with that physical makeup and that arm speed. Somebody could look.
Well, and if you could develop him into a closer role where he's just coming out throwing the fastball and not messing around with anything else and then throwing the hammer curve.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty salty.
He's the guy that you really wanted McMillan to be, but McMillan wanted to start,
Yes.
I mean, you could have a situation if one of these dudes would own it. And I think that you could have a situation where one of those guys could set records, in saves. Like they come out and do huge and like build your stock from that if you're willing to do it, I'm not saying they're going to be throwing 106, but it'd be pretty sweet, to have a guy that wants to own that spot.
It would. Of course, you make a lot of these decisions in the summer. You know what else you can do in the summer? You can send your kids to Code Ninjas. Code Ninjas teaches kids ages 5 through 14 how to level up their coding STEM and engineering skills in a fun, hands-on environment. In addition to their year-round programs, kids learn to code by creating video games. Code Ninjas is now enrolling for week-long summer camps. These kids already love Oh, they use technology that your kids already love, like Legos, Minecraft, Roblox, to expand their skills, creativity, and confidence. They can build a game controller out of a banana, Keith. Gambling Gauchos listeners can use Gauchos at checkout for $10 off any summer camp at the Code Ninjas Lubbock location. Call them at 806 370 0022 or check out all their great programs at codeninjas.com.
You stumbled there. Were you reading that? It was so natural.
You ever build a game controller out of a banana, Keith?
I think that stuff is cool. I don't know how to code, but as part of my real job, I buy stuff for those kind of things all the time for teachers and kids, and I think it's awesome. And the dude that owns Code Ninja is a great guy, and
Yes,
I think it's a great place to for some kids to get some really cool experiences over the summer.
All right. Any other names specifically that you want to get
Everybody
to?
could have seen your face just now.
I was having a mental pretzel to get back to where we were going.
Yeah.
I always let Kyle read the promos.
Yeah.
I don't. I read a lot for my job, and I have to read out loud a lot for my job. Obviously, I'm on the radio, and I read news on KFYO. Believe it or not, that's not live. I record those beforehand. It's not live news. Sorry to shatter the illusion for most of you.
Peeling back the curtain here.
It takes about 17 minutes for me to record a 2.5-minute broadcast. I cannot read out loud. Oh, man. Then I have to cut them all.
I enjoy listening to Kyle learn on the podcast how to work his way into a segue. It's one of my favorite things y'all do.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if I've missed anybody. I think
I've also appreciated the constant every episode shout outs of Red Raider Dugout.
Yes. Yeah. The whole year. Well, we talk tech baseball. Why would we go to anyone else for information but Red Raider Dugout?
Oh, absolutely.
Since April, really. All right. Any other spotlights you want to give? Whether it's a recruit or maybe a player you think can break out next year. Is Hudson White due for an Eric Gutierrez career? Because he started every game his freshman year, was freshman of the year, freshman All-American. You kind of see some similarities there.
He's legit. The kid is legit.
Does he
Jordan Washburn, to be honest.
Yeah, but they both are. Yep. They both should have been freshman All-Americans.
Yep.
But you have Hudson White, who started 0 for 22?
Pretty close. 0 for, 21, 22.
If you cut – now, we'd have to do some math here. But if you cut the 0 for 22, I wonder what his if you just started his season at the first at bat, I wonder what his batting average would have been. Because –
he was 1 for 20.
1 for 20 start. That's not good, Keith.
Actually, 2 for 24, if you could get to that.
I mean, there was times, really, when it was like, okay, how long are we going to let this freshman catcher play? Is there no one else who can play first base and just put Stillwell behind the dish? What's going on? And then when he came on, he came on.
He did. Yep, just took him a while to see it, whatever it was.
I mean, he's a guy who could hit 350 next year.
I said in the fall that I felt like Hudson White was kind of defensively year 2 Brax and offensively year 3 Braxton Fulford. And I think we saw that. I mean, once he got going, he's just a little further ahead than Braxton was coming out of Monterey, which bodes well. You're not going to have him for 4 years, but you're going to have a couple really good ones, 2 or 3. So, yeah, I think he could have a great year. And it's always a fun exercise, and it's hard to know because you don't know the lineup right now, and there's so many new faces coming. How many guys, how many double-digit home run guys you're going to have? That kind of stuff. I always like those kind of exercises. Because this year you had 3. And one of them was Parker Kelly.
Which I don't think anybody
saw on their bingo card.
Okay, one more thing I did want to talk about. And it's kind of a philosophical question. And I know as a fellow lover of philosophy.
Philosophizing?
Well, that was I mixed up my syllables there.
The wrong emphasis on the
Yeah, the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Scheduling and RPI.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, what if you would have beaten TCU? Okay, let's say you do beat TCU a game, and you beat OU one more time.
Yeah,
Aren't you just TCU and not hosting still?
probably. I agree.
Okay.
I agreed with you guys that we were further away. Texas Tech was further away from hosting than I think we thought.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I do think because you're Texas Tech and Jim Schlossnagle has gone from TCU, so you're not TCU anymore at their eyes. And you had him in the room. You had Kirby in the room. I think if you'd won the Big 12, did what you did or a game better in the tournament, you probably get in as far as I
and you were ranked.
Yes, highly ranked. Yes,
highly ranked.
Yes. So they had the cover. You have to have like the committee has to have cover. You know,
I mean, if 22 RPI A&M could have been the 5 because Jim Schlossnagle.
Yeah,
I think 32 Texas Tech could have been the 16.
It would not have been unprecedented, but it would have been very rare. 1 year that's happened.
Okay, back to my question.
So Merrimack,
Merrimack, that can't happen.
Okay, so let me tell you about Merrimack.
Play Kent State and Merrimack both.
Let me tell you about Merrimack. Okay. So Merrimack lost their coach, and I'm not saying they were going to come beat you, but I think they were going to be more competitive than they were.
Okay.
They lost their coach in December, and he took the pitching staff with him. And so I think that you ended up with a team that was way down from what you originally scheduled. I think that is part of what happened.
Well, and Iowa was not as good as you thought they would be.
Correct. And you lost a game.
Mississippi State, coming off a national championship season.
Yeah, you
not help your RPI.
You split with Mississippi State, and they don't even make their own conference tournament.
You split with both of those teams, and frankly, you shouldn't have. But I think maybe Texas Tech wasn't everything that we wanted them to be at times this year, too. We've talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, but there's no.
It's not built for you to host. If RPI is the only thing that matters, which it seemed like it was this year.
I mean, if you had, you definitely could have hosted if you just took care of business. I mean, if you had not lost to New Mexico, if you'd split with Grand Canyon and you hadn't lost to ACU, you're fine.
Yeah.
Losing the Big 12 now.
It's just a razor thin wire you're having to walk.
Yeah. But there's some regional stuck to that too. Like you can't take a cross-country trip or expect somebody else to every midweek. So you're kind of stuck to New Mexico some. ACU maybe not quite as much, but New Mexico.
I love playing Grand Canyon. Would love to get them to Lubbock.
I sure as heck don't want to go play there and have to watch that on TV again.
That was an awful experience. I would love a weekend series against Grand Canyon. Get 3 of them in Lubbock.
I think that'd be cool.
Do that early. Wouldn't you rather do that than Merrimack?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, give me last year's schedule. Like, give me the 4 game against UConn. And last year this was coming. Like, there's no question that them being in a super, that was coming. And can you believe Texas State was a Levi Wells away from hosting UConn to go to Omaha?
Wild.
Texas State and UConn, and it was Levi Wells that stood between them. Anyway, that just blows my mind. Like that shows you why. I mean, that's why you love baseball, because those things can happen. But I'm with you. I don't want Merrimack. And to be clear, Grand Canyon Stadium was not that dark. Their cameras struggled. Their stadium was well lit. I got a picture of it. I was like, okay, somebody sent me a picture. Like, this is well lit. And they apparently told some of our broadcast guys, they're like, we can't figure it out. Our TV guys cannot get the lighting to work. And it was
open up your embouchure, guys.
It was kind of your embouchure.
Yeah, the shutter speed. No, it's a band term as well. But
that I don't think that's cross. I don't think that crosses industries. I think embouchure is where you hold your instrument with your mouth. I don't think it's another thing.
What's the term I'm looking for?
Your f-stop?
The embouchure's how tight your lips are, right?
Rob is making a sphincter with his fingers right now.
Oh, it's a mouthpiece.
Yes, your
I'm not
embouchure is
brass.
how tight your lips is how you hold your mouth with the mouth.
Hey, you were
was in band.
you were a going band.
I was in Go Band.
This is getting to know the Gauchos with Keith Patrick.
Yeah,
What instrument did you play?
clarinet.
Okay, clarinet. That was brass.
I know.
You were woodwind.
I was. Nobody can hear us, so just have a good time. My freshman year, our section shirt
Whatever
said,
you
"Play
want.
loud, nobody can hear us anyway." There's 400 people out there. We play clarinet. Anyway, back to the schedule.
Yeah.
I think they'll be a little more intentional, but I'm not saying they scheduled like garbage. They kind of scheduled the way they have. Their formula just kind of blew up in their face a little bit this year. I mean, and it was
right.
And you're banking on teams playing. I mean, remember the year we had South Al? And you're like, why are we playing these bozos? You know? But then they come in and they're not terrible. And then you played was it Northeastern?
I would also, I mean, why are you playing
number 2 RPI when they came?
Why are you playing New Mexico instead of Texas State? Why does that regional bias not play in there?
That's fair.
Because they're playing other Texas teams? Because they'd rather play Texas?
I don't know.
I would like to punt New Mexico into the sun.
I agree.
Unless you're playing them in Midland, because that's kind of cool.
I agree with that. And also a fair point about New Mexico, especially that last game. It's one of the most offensive ballparks in NCAA baseball.
Yes.
And that's coming from people that play at Texas Tech. Like, it is incredibly offensive. And if you're in a situation like you were in, where you're coming off 4 in a row and your pitching is hurting and you're injured and you cancel your Monday game because of that and you go Johnny Allstaff, you don't want to be there. You just don't. It's just a bad situation, and that's what happened. But
speaking of bad situations, if you have one come up, Barnett, Howard, and Williams is a law firm that was started by 3 Texas Tech grads. Their offices are in Fort Worth, but they handle cases all across Texas. They're one of the only law firms in Texas that is certified for Title IX student representation. They've defended students, including scholarship athletes, in Title IX litigation at all of the major universities in Texas. They also handle catastrophic injury cases across the state. And for our listeners in the Fort Worth area, they handle criminal defense and family law matters. The law firm of Barnett, Howard, and Williams hopes you never need them. But if you do, they're there for you. You can find out more at Barnett, Howard, and Williams by visiting their website, bhwlawfirm.com.
6 Texas Tech degrees between those dudes.
That's right.
That's impressive. I could have gotten 6 degrees as long as I was at Texas Tech, I think.
I probably could have done similar, but no, yeah. Not at Texas Tech. Go Shaps.
Yeah. Did you go there because you love meatloaf?
No. I went there because I got half price.
Oh, there you go. Little family discount.
Yeah. Dad worked at the high school. It's kind of a combo deal there.
Nice.
They're not affiliated. They don't want to be affiliated, but they give discounts all over the place. So,
all right.
Anyways,
get to know the Gauchos.
Final thoughts, I guess. And the schedule. Look, the schedule is what it is. You can only put a schedule together and hope that they do what you want them to do. Like, you cannot control how bad Kent State is. You can't control what some of these teams do. I mean, Dallas Baptist had a winning record against Big 12 teams this year. They're 5-4.
Yeah, but could hardly compete in their own conference.
Because they were starting all their good players on the
Yeah, that's what happens when you pitch backwards. All the way backwards. Not like, oh, we're going to throw our ace on Saturday and not Friday. No, you're going to throw them on Tuesday.
Throw them on Tuesday against Oklahoma and Norman.
There's something we need to talk about, the RPI. And
it's a broken system because the schedule shouldn't matter. If you're a 40-win team, a game out of your conference or a conference champion, you should be hosting instead of Georgia Southern.
Yes.
Like TCU should have hosted.
OU should have hosted.
OU should have hosted.
Yep. NC State should have been in. I mean, Notre Dame should have hosted. And,
Yeah,
and here's my problem.
Why do we care about these small schools, man? I think it's the same in basketball. Cut 100 schools out of what you're doing for the postseason.
Yeah, but then you don't have like a College of Charleston winning it all. You know,
they're in the top 200.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You still have the Sun Belts. You still have the WAC.
You're saying get give Binghamton.
Canyon still, yes.
What are they going to do with their $60 million ballpark?
I don't care. I don't give a damn about Binghamton.
Oh, I would love.
But you also just wouldn't be playing them, and it wouldn't wreck. You wouldn't have a 257 RPI.
I would love if they got rid of the Mercer Bears, just so that maybe like the 11.7 guys would just go away.
Yeah, I would be into that.
No, I think the RPI deal, you're applying a basketball system to baseball. It just doesn't work. And then the problem is, it is the process. And anybody that argues and says, well, it's not just RPI. Okay, what else do they look at? Conference record, allegedly. Conference record, okay. And then what do they look at? Record against RPI top 25, 50, and 100. You know, they do quadrants just on their own without them actually being quad named. Well, it's all RPI, you know. So,
and they also look at the name of the head coach.
Yep. And how well you're going to host, even though they won't admit it.
100% that plays into it. You shouldn't have been a national seed last year if you're talking about Texas Tech.
No.
According to RPI.
Notre Dame should have been pissed about that.
And maybe that's why they took it out on you this year.
But like Notre Dame, they got hammered this year because they lost a bunch of games early. Well, they're a northern school. Now they weren't all canceled for that, but a lot were. My buddy, the committee chairman, who's from Army, I believe, was not happy about those cancellations.
I thought you said my buddy.
My buddy. Mark Buddy, who was the committee chairman, the selection committee.
Yeah.
Not happy about like the RPI cancellations. Well, apparently it didn't bother him that much because A&M was a top 5.
Yeah. And then when they asked him about that, he was like, well, you know, there's a personal process we also go through. It's like, what? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Personal process? Like, it's not all RPI.
So they said they're going to make an adjustment. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
It's just every year we go through the whole thing. You look at all this stuff, you make your case, especially if you're a homer and you're like, oh, here's all the reasons we should get to do this thing or that thing. Or we're thinking like this year, oh, you know, take care of a couple pieces of business here. And you're back in the hosting conversation, even if you are a 30, you know, nope. RPI, period. Just RPI. But we're going to shove Georgia Southern down your throat because people have been on us all year about them. They won 40.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's an imperfect system, but I do love the sport.
If your budget is imperfect, you can call Diversified Lenders. They're a closely knit, family-owned business. Former Red Raiders as well, Cole Roberts and his dad. We know the struggles of customers that they regularly face. This Diversified Lenders company started in 1986 as a one-person finance brokerage, so they also know the struggles of the customers as well. They specialize in creative financing like equipment leasing and accounts receivable-based lending. If you need to pay your employees, call Diversified Lenders. They do factor invoice purchasing, asset-based lending, government finance, and leasing. They do it all. Find out more at diversifiedlenders.com.
Well done. Nailed it.
That segue might have been a little rough. We're running out of time, though.
You got to sell it. You can't laugh your way through it.
Well, again, I usually hit the segue and then get to back off the mic and laugh and make Kyle read them.
I don't know what else to talk about, Rob.
Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, final thoughts. We could probably talk for another hour on Danlaw Field, but I think that's another podcast episode that we can do.
No doubt. And we can do some recruiting stuff together. But I can tell you, I see 32 in the class along with JUCOs. And to put Red Raiders' mind at ease, currently the high school recruiting class is ranked number 6 in the country, which would be the highest it's ever been for Tim Tadlock if it held there. Numbers are a part of that right now. and the JUCO class was number 3.
New Mexico Player of the Year pitcher. Is he getting drafted?
Who was that? Remind me of
I
the
do
name.
not remember his name. I just remember that he blew up on Twitter
I
last
saw
week.
that. Nolan Perry.
Yes.
He is not graded by Perfect Game. Gatorade Player of the Year in New Mexico, which, as a comparison, Owen Washburn, Gatorade Player of the Year in Wisconsin.
Yes.
What, Wisconsin?
All right.
So he's not a top 2. I was looking on MLB, not a top 200 guy. So I wouldn't think. But more pub you get, more they start coming looking for you. Pro
Right.
ball and other colleges. So the relationships still matter.
The draft next week?
It's in July.
Oh, it's in 2 weeks now, yeah. Oh, they moved it all the way back.
I believe so. Yeah.
They did. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, because it's not in any way connected to Omaha.
Right. Because Major League Baseball is stupid.
July 17th through 19th. Well, they did it there before. I mean, that had been the plan. I think it was COVID year they were moving it there, if I remember right. July 17th to 19th.
They're all there. All the best guys are there that are getting drafted.
Well, and I always hate it when you're like in a deciding super game and some guy gets drafted and you're like, it's crazy, but the moment could be better for everybody if you did this differently.
Yeah.
So, and you could get more eyeballs on your draft because nobody watches it because it's web streamed and it's 20 rounds. So get yourself some eyeballs.
Yeah.
But it was cool that they moved an MLB game to TD Ameritrade. It's been changed to Charles Schwab now, but a couple years ago, I hope they get back to that.
That was always fun. The Little League game was always fun there at where do they play the Little League World Series? Harrisburg?
Yep.
Is that it?
I think so.
Don't they retrofit that park and play a Major League game there?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that.
I think like the Reds and the Pirates or something.
I really wanted to go to the the Field of Dreams game.
That is awesome. I hope they do that every year.
I think they're going to keep doing it.
Why build that park if you're not going to?
Yeah. I just thought the spectacle they made of it was really cool. I thought they did a good job. Williamsport.
Williamsport.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew I was wrong, but.
And also college baseball, whoever does it, I think it's the Omaha. I think it's like the Omaha group that does the College World Series stuff. They need to bring back the home run derby.
Yes. That was fun.
Yep.
See, just take a week after everything's done. People are there.
Really before, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, the weekend before, do the draft.
Every time I've gone, it's like, if you go to the first weekend and you stay and ride with your team,
that is true.
It is.
That is true.
You're physically tired.
The week before, I mean, it's a little bit.
And they've condensed it. They've condensed the series a little bit now.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, let's do this. Let's me, and Kyle get back together in July after the draft. Reassess the recruiting class and maybe take a little bit longer of a breather and come back and maybe put some lineups together and that kind of stuff.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
It's never too early.
At the end of the day, I'm trying not to be disappointed.
Right.
I think we're all feeling disappointed, but in the grand scheme, what was Kyle's thing? Look at your sports fandom in chunks.
Yeah.
If I look at 5 and 10 year chunks, I get it. And I've been a fan of this team for a long time. And before Tim Tadlock came, you hadn't made the postseason since 2004. And so I'm trying to, the momentum will be back, but I do think that they've faced some challenges.
A lot of the fans that were upset about this year were just flat out were not fans in the Dan Spencer era.
No.
Because if you were, you would be on your knees thanking Tim Tadlock that a down year is a regional finalist game out of Big 12 championship. Like, this was a great year if you're talking the history of Tech baseball.
Yeah.
This is probably a top 20 year of the program in the history of the program.
Yep. It's the second worst year generally in the
Tadlock.
Tadlock era, but still
Yeah.
a top 20 year. That tells you the success.
Yeah.
By the way, there is one celebration from this year. The idiot that kept DMing both of our podcast accounts or my web account finally blocked us all. So thank God for that. I hope you're listening. You sucked. It was not fun. I did not enjoy it. You can take your negativity and go put it out for the world. You're a coward. Plain and simple.
Yeah, blocked account thinking he has free reign to the three of us just to be an ass.
Yes. Maybe you're a wonderful person to hang out with. I hope that's true, but I did not enjoy that. Sorry.
No.
Did not.
No, I didn't either.
And I think we all got to the point that we're glad you've moved on. There's other podcasts to listen to.
I do not miss that guy.
No. And speaking of that guy, I don't miss any of you. Hopefully it wasn't great Gambling Gauchos listeners. I don't miss any of you saying you want to fire Matt Gardner. I don't. I disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think that the resume speaks for itself. I think that you've had 3 MLB guys this year at the same time at one point.
Yes, they're all up right now.
Here's a fun stat.
Hey, Davis Martin's starting against the Rangers tomorrow.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
in Chicago.
I knew he had hung. I knew he had not come down. So that's great.
Starting tomorrow in Chicago against the Rangers.
Cool. Caleb Killian did come back down, which was expected.
Oh, did he?
Huh?
Did he after this weekend start?
Yeah, and so in case anybody didn't know, Killian and Davis Martin got starts in doubleheaders. You get an extra pitcher during a doubleheader in the MLB. And so they both came immediately back down, but Davis Martin got another start and has stayed. And then Parker Mashinsky was put on the injured list for some elbow discomfort, but he was not sent down for it. So he's hanging up on the injured list right now. But all that to say, you've had a National Pitcher of the Year. You had these dudes do what they did in the regional. I mean, the guy's producing, and this isn't football. You don't have a bad game and turn around and say fire the pitching coach, like you say fire the defensive coordinator, which is also ridiculous. At the end of the day, yeah, take it easy. Rob's like, this is like my whole deal. No, that wore me out this year, and I understand the frustration. I truly do, but there's no reality to it in my mind. And now 3 years down the road, and you're not doing anything, and there's obvious struggle after struggle after struggle, or you're not getting guys or whatever. Fine, have a conversation like that. But 1 year, halfway through the season, come on.
But it's like back-to-back shutouts on Friday, Saturday, where you look all world, and then you struggle on Sunday, and it's like, this guy sucks, get him out of here.
What's he even doing?
Watch the first 2 games of the series?
Yeah.
Like after Hampton couldn't get an out against West Virginia. And it's like, why can't we? You just have back-to-back complete games, and people are trying to fire the pitching coach.
Yeah.
It's just nuts.
Back-to-back complete games, a doubleheader. Oh, I know what stat I was going to say. There's a little nugget for you. This is our second hour being Texas Tech's second most prolific year in the MLB. So only one other year. You're tied with 2002 for 3 MLB debuts in the same season. Only 2013 had more. There was 4.
2002.
Mm-hmm. You want to guess?
Clint Bryant.
Hold on. Get my list.
Okay. So you're saying there was 2 in 2002?
No, there was 3, just like this year.
Okay. You got it?
Clint
Bryant?
No, I
Josh Bard?
No, I don't have it. Hold on.
Oh. I thought you just had it like up in a...
All right, hit me.
Clint Bryant?
Nope.
Okay. Josh Bard?
Yes.
I'll guess Stubby Clapp?
Yes. No, he was 0-1.
I don't... go ahead. Tell me who else.
Josh Bard, I'll go in order,
Okay.
chronological order. Travis Driscoll in April,
Travis Driscoll.
Josh Bard in August, Trey Lunsford in September.
Would not have gotten Trey Lunsford.
Yeah. And not Clint Bryant. Clint Bryant never made an MLB debut.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Nope. But Tex at 33. 33 guys have been in the MLB over the history.
Who's next? Young?
Probably. I mean, hopefully.
So if Young debuts in September, let's just say he has enormous progress and the Rangers are in a position to bring him up.
Yep.
That would be 4, and that would be the record?
It would tie the record. 13 also had 4.
13.
2013. You want to guess those? Those
Roger,
you know all those names.
Roger Kieschnick.
Yep.
Um,
He was third.
the kid from Estacado. AJ Ramos.
2012.
Damn it. Chad Bettis.
Yes.
Josh Tomlin.
No, he was earlier, 2010. He stayed a long time in the league.
Kieschnick.
Kieschnick.
Dallas Braden was before that. Long before.
He ever DM you guys back?
No.
He followed me.
Kyle was upset. Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Well, maybe he has an idea with you, and then we can just be byproduct. Who else?
Colt Hines.
Okay.
And Nate Carnes.
Nate Carnes. I should have had that one.
Yeah. I knew you would know that one.
Yeah, Nate Carnes.
You can, of course, follow Red Raiders in the Pros at RedRaiderDugout.com. We keep up with all the Red Raiders in the pros. Multiple guys in AAA right now. A few. Up and down.
What about a guy like Tyler Neslony with the White Sox? Are they injury prone enough to maybe toss him up for a weekend? It's kind of a lifetime achievement there.
I mean,
obviously he hadn't been in that system long, but
he is raking in AA right now. But he's 28. And so the clock's ticking. I mean, I think he could absolutely be, a fifth outfielder in the MLB, no doubt. It's just give him the shot. Unfortunately, he's also in a loaded system.
Yeah.
And so, or for a loaded team. So I hope he gets a shot. I mean, I'm pulling for him because he's hung around and really tried to make it work. And if y'all don't know, he moved from the Cardinals, the Braves, that's right, from the Braves organization to the White Sox. But yeah, I'm hoping.
And then Gabe Holtz in AA.
Gabe Holtz in AA. So is Tyler Floyd. Ty Dameron. What's that?
Same team, Floyd and Gabe Holt?
Yep, still with the Biloxi Shuckers. I would think, and he's had an injury this year, not an arm, not like a throwing injury. Jose Quezada, he was up and down AAA and AA. He's in the Padres organization. So some shots for him in the fairly near future, I would think. Not this year, probably, but next season. I can't imagine Josh gets a chance this year.
No, I don't think so.
Not able to rehab. What I really hope for is that Zach Davis gets a chance. He continues. He's been in AAA with the Iowa Cubs for a long time. Kind of like at Tech. Pinch runner, defense, some of that stuff. Still not really swinging it. They tried to turn him into a switch hitter at one point. He's just put in the work,
Here's a bonus for Zach Davis. And Caleb Killian. The Cubs are not good. So I mean, they have some young guys. One of their best players, I do not remember his name. 22-year-old outfielder. I don't remember. Anyways, he's up. He's their best player. You might just see a full-on let's start trading fire sale and kind of a restart. And at that point, Killian's starting every 5 days for the Cubs. I mean, he's their top pitching prospect, yeah?
Yep.
One of them.
Yep. What about Frazier?
No, it was Who else? Who else is on the Cubs lineup?
I don't know. I'm looking.
Anyways,
Live,
the point is
live
they're not
coverage
good.
of me looking this up.
Yeah, they're not good.
They're not good.
Morel,
Oh, Morel.
Christopher Morel. Yeah.
They've got Nick Madrigal at second base. That's pretty cool. He was a good college player for Oregon State? Question mark.
Yeah, that's the White Sox though.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How about the Cubs?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, lots of college baseball. If you're a college baseball fan, and you have been, if you're listening to the podcast, certainly an hour and a half into it.
No, wait.
You're a
Hold
college
on a
baseball
second.
fan.
Stop correcting me. Nick Madrigal is the second baseman for the Cubs.
Did he get traded?
He played for the White Sox last year.
I did not know he moved to the Cubs.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Really?
There you
Well,
go.
I mean, crosstown move. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. Well, good for Nick Madrigal.
Who cares?
But I'm saying
Nobody
if you're
cares.
if you're a big college baseball fan, Pete Alonso, Jonathan India for the Reds, getting some splash.
Yep.
A lot of arms, obviously.
I wish he was still getting gunned down by Tyler Neslony.
Yeah. Brady Singer for the Royals, having a good year. Obviously, Texas Tech beat them in Omaha with Brady Singer.
Who's up for the Reds? Former college player.
Jonathan India.
Is India at the Reds? That's who it was.
Yeah. I mean, there could be more. I just remember India getting gunned down, as you said, by Neslony.
Yes. Glorious.
Great memory.
He was young, but a great call.
Yeah.
Great call.
Yeah. How pumped did you get on the Tim Tadlock opening presser cut that they did right after the season ended? Did you see that?
It was so good.
Dude, the hair on my arms and back of my neck.
Nobody can ever forget. He's no longer in TV. Nobody can ever forget that David Collier is the one that asked him in Omaha and made him cry. When he said, "Do you remember your opening press conference?" He's like, "Come on, man." You know what we didn't talk about? J. Bob's ejection.
Yeah. Okay, so 7-game suspension. They're appealing that, right?
God, I hope so. It's not going to change, but I hope you got to fight back.
I mean, it's not going to change?
I would be surprised. When does the NCAA ever do anything rational?
The umpire jumped at J-Bob and immediately pointed at him and said, "That's 4 games. That's 4." You shouldn't have intent if you're an umpire to induce an injection and a suspension.
I don't think you should have, while being also caught up in the emotions of the moment, the opportunity to make calls like that. It just doesn't make any sense.
That guy's not the one that suspended him. He just knew it was going to be a 4-game suspension because there was "quote unquote" contact.
No, I don't think he gave the 4 in that moment. He was given the 2 for extended arguing at least. Was he? You can give the 2. You can give the 2 on the field.
I'm a lip reader, right?
Okay.
It looked like he was saying that's 4 games.
John Bro.
And it's like, what are we doing? Yeah, I should do a breakdown. John Bro breakdown.
I can just say that I'm confident. And I don't know if they're appealing or not. I truly don't. But I'm confident that J-Bob doesn't care about that suspension at all. I'm telling you, because what he cares about is those kids. And
you're not going to Arlington next year. Will you be in Houston next year?
Going to Houston, I'm pretty sure.
And that's not in the first week. That might be the second week. He might miss the Houston trip. But obviously we don't have a schedule yet. It's not going to be anything that he misses that.
Well, Houston's not till March this year.
Oh, good.
So it's a little later.
Good.
So you got a couple. If he's looking, I mean, if they're looking for games, and if you open with a 4-game, which you have in previous years, he's probably back by second game of the second weekend. If you do a 2-game midweek, See ya. We're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of those deals where at some point they looked at each other and he said, "I got this," and you just got to. The officiating was just garbage in that regional, but also throughout. College baseball looked bad this weekend in many ways because of just some stupid calls, terrible
And
missed
the umpire
replay.
pushing the guy from
Oh,
ECU in the line.
so he's the Angel Hernandez of college baseball.
Yeah. Perry Costello or whatever his name is.
And he gets the series every year, and he's that guy every year. It's never ends. It never ends. Yeah, pushing the guy. I mean, who spent a second watching a home run? Second and a half. I mean, come on.
Well, there was a lengthy ass-kicking chicken trot down first base and a bat throw into the dugout earlier in the regional.
God. How about the interference call late in the game Monday? Did you see that one at first base?
Okay. I think that was the right call.
Really?
Yes. Because he veered into he did not get called for interference at the base. He was called for interference 5 feet before the base because he was inside the line. Both of his feet were running inside the baseline. That's interference.
Okay. I just like
it looked really bad though because the first baseman ran him over.
The problem is and
he was a little guy.
The problem was there was no chance of the play.
No.
It was kind of like the interference call on Parker Kelly when Cody Masters was obviously going to be safe. Like Tim Tadlock said, the fastest 60 in the history of the program. Yeah. Nobody was going to throw him out, so it makes it sting even more, in that one. But there was just some bad looks like that. And the missed replay.
It was late. It was late that they did that interference call at first base. They had poor mechanics.
Yeah, you had a safe call at the base. I like the immediate call for the double bases, the double first base.
Yeah.
All right, we could talk all night, Rob.
Yeah.
But I want dinner.
Or where do they find you on Twitter and stuff?
At Red Raider Dugout on Twitter. I'm on Facebook too. I'm also on the Gram, which I'm not any good at using, but it is there. Red Raider Dugout. And, of course, RedRaiderDugout.com. We've got try to cover this team all season, game recaps. I write some columns here and there. Just wrote one about J-Bob's ejection specifically.
Great one.
Thank you. We run Red Raiders in the Pros is a big part of it. We'll have some recruiting stuff coming up soon. I also have a plan that I want to execute. I'll just announce it here. Now I'm going to have to do it. I want to make this the home of the history of the Texas Tech hecklers. So we might get some cool stuff.
Awesome.
Pull it out of the archives of the old heckler glory days and get some stuff on there. But I think there'll be some cool things with that. But, RedRaiderDugout.com. And I just want to say I appreciate everybody, their support of my little niche thing that I do here for baseball, and I really love it. And I'm sorry that Dinger Derby has been a little quiet this year, but the website's taken up a lot of time, and my 5-year-old. So we'll work to get it back.
You just need to find a co-host.
I do. Yeah.
We'll find you
one. A booker.
We'll find you one and a booker. A guest booker.
A guest booker. Well, thanks for having me on, man. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. Enjoyed talking to you. Always do. You were one of the first guests the Rob Bro Show ever had.
Really?
Yeah. Well, one of the first guest hosts.
Oh. I remember when you asked me, but I figured it was just fill in because
you and Mike. No, I was that was fairly new into the thing. Yeah.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh,
I usually just went solo, but
yeah. I was terrified.
I got used to having the crutch of Carson around, and then
Carson. Yeah. Carson says lots of words. I love him.
He does, man. He takes up some time. You get some breaths when Carson's around.
I've recently realized that I know Carson's sister.
Yeah.
And she's great. Great person.
Yeah. It's hard to believe, right?
Right. Yes.
Kelly and Camden all around. Parks and Rec director now, I
That's
believe.
right. Serving the United way.
I guess as Kyle would say, love y'all.